What's up everyone, Brandon here from Gearist. Today we're going to be taking a look at the Mount Whitney vest from NuDown. Now for those of you that don't know, here's a really quick primer on what down is and how down exactly works as an insulation. Now the first thing you should know is that it has nothing to do with piling a bunch of feathers on you. The feathers themselves aren't what keep you warm. And when I say feathers, let's just agree that that means feathers. It also means synthetic down. It also means kind of synthetic insulating materials. But basically all those materials, it's not how much stuff they're packing on you to keep you warm. What is keeping you warm is the air in between that material. So in the case of down feathers, it is the air that is in between the down clusters. But how does air keep you warm? Well, those down clusters, which you can see here, down clusters form thousands and millions of little gaps and little spaces. And it's those little spaces that are filled with heat by your body. So it's a lot easier for your body to heat a very small space than it is for your body to heat a very large space. So the theory behind down and synthetic insulation is that your body is heating up these small spaces of air rather than trying to heat it up all at once or heat it by itself. Now with that out of the way, we're going to be taking a look at this vest from NuDown, which uses NuTech and technically doesn't use down at all. Now before we go getting into the Mount Whitney vest as a product of NuDown and the NuTech aspect of it, let's talk about this strictly as a garment. The shell of the vest is made from a 50 denier 4-way stretch polyester, which is made to move with the body. This is all about moving with the body and adapting that technology to your body so that you don't feel constricted. Directly below each armpit, the arm's eye there, you can see a section of Polartec Wind Pro. This material right here feels like a polar fleece sort of material with a slightly smooth outside. This is again meant to address that kind of flexibility that you might need, but it's also going to keep you warm so they're not compromising this area of the piece. The interior of the jacket is lined with a hybrid bamboo and charcoal mesh. What's really cool about this is both bamboo and charcoal are super sustainable, but they're also antimicrobial and moisture wicking. So you've got that going on side for when you start to get a little bit sweaty, if you start to get a little bit sweaty. The collar of the vest, which comes up quite high as you saw at the outset of this, is lined with Primaloft gold. But why it doesn't have NuTech? Well, because NuTech doesn't extend up this far. We'll again get into NuTech in a second because it would probably feel like you're being choked a little bit. And then the final thing I'd like to point out about the kind of exterior pieces of this jacket are that it includes a Reco reflector. Now if you're not familiar with what Reco is, it is an avalanche beacon of sorts. So you have this on you if you're involved in a slide or what have you. Rescue crews or anybody with a beacon will be able to find you as a pinpoint. So basically it's a little reflector that's going to bounce signals back to people and keep you safe and able to be found. The Mount Whitney vest sports 3 pockets on its exterior, one here on each of the hand pocket sides and then one breast pocket. Now each of these has a taped zipper to help it remain waterproof, water resistant, what have you, and each of the pockets is lined with the same charcoal and bamboo material as the regular inside of the jacket, the interior of the jacket. On the right hand, or excuse me, the left hand pocket, this is where the pump lives. That's right. There's a pump. There's a small secondary pocket inside of here that unzips, and within is a pump like you might see on a sphygmomanometer. Now, a sphygmomanometer is the fancy word for a blood pressure taking device, and that is what this guy is right here. I'm going to get into how this works in a few minutes, so keep your pants on. The second thing that I'll point out is that the breast pocket right there, pretty traditional, once again lined with the same materials, the interior of the jacket, once again a taped zipper, and you've got your media port inside for headphones and what have you to come up through the interior of the vest and into your head. There is a final pocket on the interior right hand side, a great stash pocket for goggles, sunglasses, what have you. It is hook and loop enclosure, so it'll stay closed and keep things nicely in place. I've got to say that the durability of this vest is one of the things that has impressed me the most, and I imagine that that's kind of a byproduct of them wanting to keep the system sealed, which again we'll talk about the NuTech here in just one second. Case in point for the durability, one day I was wearing this and it was a particularly balmy day and I was back in some glades and working kind of hard skiing, and so I took off the shell that was over top of this. It was, I want to say about right about 32 degrees, maybe just a hair chillier, but I was getting very hot. So I was just wearing this vest with a base layer underneath, a long sleeve base layer. Very comfortable, and what was impressive is in this particular glade I got into a section where the trees were really quite densely packed, and I took several branches like hard to the chest and to the torso that were just trying to scuff this thing up and cut it, and it came out unscathed. I mean, there's not even really a mark on it. So a very impressive durability in my opinion. Now those hand pockets, very, very warm, very, very convenient. I like it having another set of pockets. Here's one thing I would mention about it is that this is obviously my bare hand. It's a little snug getting in just as a bare hand. It goes in, no problem, but I can imagine that if you've got a glove on, even a thin glove, you might have a little bit of an issue. I would like to see probably an inch or so added to the length of this zipper. I know that means there's more construction in the zipper, but at the same time, I really want a little more ease of access to those zipper pockets. Now, one noticeable thing about this vest that you are probably going to notice, or anybody else putting it on, is that let's say you've got a regular down vest. Now, we weighed one that was down vest with NuTech, so that's waterproof or water repellent down. That vest came in at 7.4 ounces, nice and light. Now, granted, it doesn't have the versatility, which we're going to talk about in a second, as this does, but this guy right here came in at 23.4 ounces, so about 3 times the weight of that. It is not heavy. It doesn't feel like a super weighty. It doesn't feel like you're wearing a weight vest at a gym or something like that, but it is noticeable if you're used to a really featherweight, no pun intended, down vest. As for fit, the Mount Whitney vest seems to run a hair large. Now, I am wearing a size large right now. Typically, that is the size that I wear, but I can imagine that I'd have a little bit of room to go down. Here's why the fit is a little bit tricky, is because all these baffles, which I'll show you in when we talk about the NuTech, these baffles are going to inflate and suck up some of that room. So it is something to account for. So if you're trying on this or one of the other pieces from NuDown, make sure that you're trying it on with it fully inflated, because you don't want to get on a piece that feels really comfortable when it's deflated, then you pump it up to where it should be and all of a sudden it doesn't feel quite right. One place that it seems to fit large even when inflated is right here in the shoulders, the top of the arm's eye there. Again, you'll see this when I pump it up in a second, but it's just something to be aware of if you are avoiding like a lot of overhang and extra bulk under a shell or something like that. This piece also has hem draw cords right here, which you can see I'm kind of holding up. Single hand action, and I do recommend, as does NuDown, to really cinch those down. This is going to create that seal around the hem, right around your butt, that's going to seal out any cold air from getting out, or getting in rather, and hot air from expelling when you don't want it to. Of course, you can let that go, and again, single hand construction with that. Under a shell, this is very comfortable. It will add a little bit of bulk, not a ton, but like this much, literally not very much at all, and that's when it's inflated. Now, this does work out if you encounter a mountain lion or something like that, but otherwise just be aware that you're going to feel like it's a little bit larger, although it doesn't really work out that way. It didn't bother me at all. Once I got past, I was like, oh, look at that, it's a little bit larger under there. Not a huge deal, just something that you should be aware of. Now let's get into how this thing actually works. How does the NuDown and the NuTech technology actually work? You can see on me and then some of the images that I'll show you right here, here, and here, that this vest and also the pieces, the other jackets and things like that from NuDown are divided into what look to be segmented chambers. These chambers are meant to be filled by that sphygmomanometer ball that I mentioned a few minutes ago, that pump, which is actually going to be changed in future models, but it's meant to be filled by that, and that creates space, creates more air. So here's how it works. Let's say that you start out your day, it's midday on a ski resort or something like this, or a backcountry trip, and you want to head up a mountain where you know that it's going to get colder. So let's say at the bottom of the mountain, you've got this nice and deflated, but as you go, you begin to get colder, you need a little more insulation. Why not just throw on an extra layer? Well, because you don't have to. The idea is that you pump up this guy, you pump up the torso, the body of this vest, and that creates more airspace, which can be warmed by your body and hence warm you up. Likewise, if you start off a particular day in your front side or something like that and it's really cold, you can be already inflated, and then as the day warms up, you can deflate it down to where you're comfortable. The point is adjustability and really getting your comfort level dialed depending on the environment. Now, according to NuDown, the number of pumps that you need really kind of depends, but what they say here is 5 pumps gives you an initial blast of insulation that will suffice for normal activity on slightly chilly days. 10 pumps will get you started in harsher conditions, and 15 to 20 pumps will protect you in the cruelest of colds, like when you're on the lift waiting to take that extra end of day run. Now, I really don't think it matters too much how many pumps you need. You pretty much just need to get it where you're comfortable. But I will say, to get this to its fullest level took me right about 55 pumps. Again, this is not a big deal. It does not bother me at all how long it takes to get there. It's simply a byproduct of getting to be comfortable and having that adjustable factor. So if you're somebody who absolutely can't squeeze your hand more times than that, then maybe you need to reconsider what piece you're looking at. So while I talk to you guys about this next section, I'm gonna go ahead and be pumping. So how warm is this vest? Well, it's actually very warm. The first thing that I mentioned to you guys a second ago, when I was in that glade, it was a particularly warm day and I was getting bombarded by trees. In that instance, it was very warm, just over a base layer. Now, as I went to a different day, it started off at about 5 degrees, I think. It was freaking freezing, and I had this on. I had it pumped up under just a shell. Yes, I had a base layer on, but then it was base layer, this, then a shell. It was very comfortable and functioned perfectly. It kept me very warm, especially in those early lift lines and things like that, getting to the backside. I think it was at, where was I? Keystone and A-Basin, wearing this, and was very, very comfortable. Now, as the day warmed up to a balmy 20 degrees, I was able to deflate it and become more comfortable. Now, as you can see, I'm standing here and I have got all these baffles all blown up and puffed up. So this is at its most inflated, which you can see there. I don't know if you can see my full body, but this is at its most inflated. As I also mentioned a second ago, there is some additional weight with this jacket. I have to say though that it's kind of one of those trade-offs that you need to make. You need to do some math for you. Is it worth it to have a piece that is really adjustable, that weighs 3 times more, or is it worth it to have 3 pieces that weigh roughly the same that are going to, again, take you through those different steps, those different types of conditions? It's really a matter of your preference, number one, and number two, the cost, which we're going to talk about now. Before I talk about the cost, let me just say that there are pieces apart from this from NuDown. There are some coats, some outerwear pieces, one of which kind of looks like this in the torso and then just kind of has sleeves on it, and then another that is full on with this underlying another layer on top of it. It looks more like a traditional coat, even a touring piece or something like that. So the cost of this is a not so subtle $450. But hold on, please. There are places where we have found it. If you look down in the buy link down in the description here, as well as over on Gearist.com, just go to Gearist.com/Amazon and search for NuDown, NuDown, where we have found it for about $260. Again, is this worth it to you for the versatility of a piece like this? For a lot of people, maybe not, but it's certainly worth something looking at. And as the technology matures and as they maybe license out to other people, perhaps, you never know, that price should begin to come down. So definitely look for it in other garments. Another added thing, and I pointed this out to the NuDown people at the SIA Snow Show earlier this year in Denver, and that is that, you know, there are people with anxiety, like genuine anxiety disorders. I am not a doctor, psychologist, psychiatrist, or anything like that. But I do know that for dogs and for people alike, there are garments that are meant to feel like they're getting a hug. And this does that. There's this really gentle, like, hugging sensation that you get from it. It is not constrictive. It is not tight at all or anything like that, but you just feel really gentle pressure against your body. So I would imagine that this would actually work for that. I don't know what one of those costs, but this is $450 or maybe $260 depending on size if you check again that buy link down below. Now before we get to our question of the day, please don't forget to like and favorite this video and subscribe to our channel. Subscribing is a huge way to support us, as is clicking all those buy links and doing your shopping for gear right there. We try to find the best prices on things for you guys so you don't have to go looking for it. Every time you buy something through one of those buy links, it helps support Gearist. So thank you so much for doing that. Now, here is our question of the day, and it is exactly what you heard a second ago. What is worth more to you, buying 3 pieces for pretty much the same price as you could get one of these that might be lighter weight and putting each of those on individually, or having a piece that might be a little bit heavier but collectively relatively the same price, or buying that single piece and having that adjustability? Let me hear your answer down in the comments section below. Guys, please don't forget you can always reach out to us at info@gearist.com. Ask us questions for Ask Gearist, or just ask a personal question. We'd love to hear it. As always, follow us on all our social media outlets, which you can see right here on my right, your left, and visit Gearist.com. Thank you guys so much for spending a few minutes with us today, and we will see you next time.